Breaking news today at 4, Special Counsel Jack Smith says he is dropping the federal election subversion case and the classified documents case against President-elect Donald Trump. In his 6-page filing, Smith writes, quote, "The department's position is that the Constitution requires that this case be dismissed before the defendant is inaugurated. This outcome is not based on the merits or strength of the case against the defendant." Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes joins us now to talk a little bit about this. But Khalif, another huge win here for the President-elect Trump. Your thoughts on what you saw today?
I mean, a win is a win, so let's start there. I mean, his team has delayed this process for as long as you possibly could. He wins the election. Then you pinpoint to their memo, their internal memorandum that says that a sitting president cannot be going through the process of being prosecuted. And so, as Jack Smith said in the opening, if you're talking about making sure that we go through the process of ensuring that we don't do that, well, we have to get this done before he's inaugurated, because then it triggers that he is now a sitting president. I think all roads led here. Once he was elected, this was the logical next step.
And after the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year.
I think the Supreme Court ruling still gave you opportunity. If this was 2 years ago, the Supreme Court made that ruling, I think Jack Smith would still be prosecuting. I think that the triggering effect was the fact that he won the election. But now make no mistake about it, the Supreme Court's decision severely limited his case. It made him have to do additional work. It added to the delay tactics. You talk about, can the president be held criminally liable for the official acts? The Supreme Court wholly said no, they cannot. And so now Jack Smith and his team has to go back. They have to go shuffle the deck, reshuffle the deck, and figure out, well, how can we charge this person with 50% of what we're attempting to charge him with was official acts. They go back, they do a new indictment, and they allege other facts that they can allege that he did at that time that were not presidential acts, that were not things that they thought fell within that category. But I still think it complicated. It muddied the water. The election didn't just muddy the water. It took all the air out of the sails. This was going downhill really, really fast. So
one of the things, too, in the filing, though, we just talked about, was the outcome is not based on the merits or the strength of the case against the defendant. So Jack Smith getting in what he still thinks and also what the government has found in their evidence.
When the Titanic went down, the music, they said they kept playing, right? And the band played on. Jack Smith, this ship is going down, but he's going to continue to play. He recognizes that at the end of the day, our case was still there, that this wasn't the case that Jack Smith brought, that this was an indictment that was brought by the grand jury, that we presented facts to everyday citizens, and they believed that the facts supported bringing a criminal indictment. And he also believed that not only did the grand jury speak, that the facts would have supported a conviction. Now, prosecutorial misconduct wouldn't allow him to say that. You can't say, yeah, we believe that he'd still be found guilty. But he said just enough, really, really close to that line, that, look, we still stand by our facts, that this is nothing about the merits, but solely about the structure and integrity of our country. Do we want a sitting president facing prosecution? And the resounding answer is no, we do not, because there would be an enormous conflict. We have those three separate bodies. And if you have one body prosecuting the other body, I think that would lead to a lot of problems.
There's a lot of checks and balances here that are going by the wayside, it seems like, on this type of thing. But also, one of the things, too, this does not interfere with the Georgia case or the New York case. State case is not federal. What about those?
Both of them are separate instances. And so in the Georgia, I mean, let's look at New York first. Obviously, that case is already over almost, right? We haven't been sentenced in the New York case, but there has been conviction and conviction by a jury. In New York, that case, the governor has an opportunity to set aside that. The judge has an opportunity to set aside that verdict as well, right? But when you're talking about Georgia, that's a totally different ballgame. First of all, we haven't even started in Georgia. Yeah, Judge McAfee in Georgia has made a lot of decisions, done a lot of pretrial hearings, but that case is still going to go forward, and there's nothing that President Trump can do because the Department of Justice, the federal arm of our government, has no say in that case. So then you say, well, can Governor Kemp make this case go away? The governor of Georgia can't make this case go away, and so now you go to a review panel. You go to a review panel that is really partisan and doesn't really help the president, and so I really think in that situation, the Georgia case continues, but then you have another red flag. Well, who prosecutes it? Is it Fonnie Willis and her team? It's looking like it won't be, because they'll drag on that appeal of her ability to hear and sit on that case. So, I mean, that one is extremely muddy, but it probably can go forward. Should it go forward? I defer back to what Jack Smith said. You probably don't want to be prosecuting him specifically on the state level when he's the elected in or sworn in president of the country at that time. So I think that even though they can technically go forward, I think in the interest of justice, it would make sense to not go forward in Atlanta, wait till his presidency is over, and then at some point go forward. But then you open up one more can of worms. does the statute of limitation run on a lot of those things? I think we'll probably talk about that at 6.
We'll see you at 6 and talk further about it on the American justice system right now is the way it is. All right, Chief Legal Analyst, Khalif Rhodes.